Hello everybody, welcome back to Access Blockbusters and welcome to a quick non-spoiler immediate reaction to episode 4 of Dune Prophecy. If you have not seen the episode, don't worry, this is going to be a quick and non-spoiler reaction, so no worries about spoilers there. But if you're interested in hearing more of my in-depth thoughts, a spoiler discussion, make sure to stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, because we are going to be posting a spoiler discussion on the next episode of the Access Blockbusters pod, which will be coming out later in the week. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully you guys enjoy that as well. But for now, these are my quick immediate thoughts right after watching the episode. So just to quickly recap, I really enjoyed the first two episodes. I thought that they were setting up quite the intriguing story. Also, it's just set in the world of Dune. I love the mythology of this world, and I thought that the characters, the subplots were all quite interesting. However, I began to get a little bit worried after episode 3 because episode 3 almost screeched the momentum to a halt. And I don't mean that episode 3 is a terrible episode, though I think it has some significant pacing issues. I just mean now we have to look at the show more holistically and say episode 3 is the halfway point, and by the end of episode 3 I felt like we were maybe a third through what the story actually was intending to be. Also, it was beginning to become apparent that all the different subplots were beginning to weigh the show down because there were just too many of them. And to the show's credit, talking about episode 4, a lot of these subplots do begin to come together in this episode. For those of you who have watched the episode, you know what I'm talking about. There's one particular sequence in the middle towards, middle or end of the episode where it all starts to come together. And actually, there is a good chunk of this episode that I was quite invested into because I thought that all the different stories were beginning to coalesce and you begin to understand why different things were happening. But the stuff that surrounded that chunk of this episode just didn't really feel as earned as the rest of this episode. And I think that that is a continuing worry that I have coming from episode 3. I think that there are still too many subplots and they're just not being able to give time to all of them in the way that they deserve because, you have all the different things going on in the palace, and then you have all the different things with the sisterhood and with Lila and with all the visions that these sisters are having. And then you also have Valia Harkonnen and Tula and the other characters, the princess, Kieran Atreides. So there's just a lot of different things going on. And I felt like there was a point in this episode where it all felt balanced, but then it all quickly began to fall apart. There's also, for those of you who have watched the episode, maybe you're going to know what I'm talking about. There's also one big question that, quite frankly, I think the show thinks it's being more clever with than it actually is. At this point, I'm just like, spit out the answer. What is it? What's going on? And I think they begin to hint at it in this episode. But by this point, we are 2/3 of the way through the show, which means that the answer to this question, which seems very pivotal to what's going on, and they just refuse to answer it, is not going to come until the second to last or the last episode. And maybe it all ties together. But, I continue to see the strengths of this show. The strengths of the show are the actors, they're great. The intrigue, it's great. The different subplots on their own are super interesting. But the weaknesses, there are too many of these subplots that are beginning to weigh the show down, and you're not able to focus on any one of them in greater depth. I wish we spent more time with the princess and with Kieran Atreides. I wish we spent more time with Tula and with Lila and what's going on over there. I just wish we spent more time, digging into these different stories, but we just don't have the time. And on top of that, I think that the pacing overall, holistically, not even balancing these subplots, but just trying to get to a point where, okay, halfway feels like halfway, I feel like the show is just not being paced as well as it hopes it can be. So again, I think episode 4 leaves us in an interesting place where the series can go on from here, but I also think that not a lot of it feels super earned, and I'm very worried that episodes 5 and 6 are going to feel very much the same, where they're going to head towards a finale, and it's just not going to feel super earned. But I did, on balance, enjoy most of what I saw in this episode. It's just that it's not coming together super well, if that makes sense. So those are my quick non-spoiler thoughts for episode 4 of Dune Prophecy. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about episode 4, and stay tuned, subscribe to the Access Blockbusters YouTube channel for the spoiler discussion in the next episode of the Access Blockbusters pod. In the meantime, guys, that'll do it from me, and I will see you guys in the next one.